Hi, I'm Chris Price. This is my YouTube channel, Japan in a Jimny. I'm a 67-year-old British guy who's lived in Japan for over 40 years, but seen actually very little of it. When I first came here, I traveled a little bit, and then I ended up in the world of finance for over 20 years. At that time, basically, when it came to travel, it was going to Narita and flying to Bali or the Philippines or Thailand or somewhere, and I didn't really travel around Japan. Also, I found that Japan travel in those days, back in the 80s and 90s, was very expensive, and it was cheaper to go to Hawaii than go to Fukuoka. However, things have changed. After my stint in banking, banking had had enough of me, and I'd had enough of banking, so it was time to do something different. I opened a small hotel in Karuizawa. Karuizawa is a small town about 1 hour outside of Tokyo by Shinkansen and a 2 or 3 hour drive. I did that for 12 years. For those of you who are British and know British TV from the 70s, it was remarkably similar to Fawlty Towers. Anyway, I'd had enough of being nice to people I didn't know by the end of last year, and I decided to sell the hotel and do something different with my life. When I was younger, I traveled around the world a lot. I traveled through Africa, I traveled through Asia. I've written a couple of books on that stuff, and I decided to have a go at traveling around Japan. Now, when I was working in the hotel, we had a couple of cars. The smaller one was a Jimny, Suzuki Jimny, and I kept that, and it's a lovely little car for touring in. It's got plenty of space, and I'm probably on my own for most of the time. So I've been on the road for about a week now, making terrible videos. My first mistake was the settings were on 2 times, so the first lot of videos, when you see my face, there's very much too much detail. You can see the nose hairs, etc., etc., which is quite disgusting, I know, and I apologize profusely. Last night I found out how to change the setting back to ×1, so I hope this is better. I'm sitting by the sea, and this thing apparently has sort of noise reduction on it, so hopefully the sea waves are not drowning out my voice. So I started off in Karuizawa and drove to Kusatsu, which is an onsen town, not about 1 hour's drive from there. And then I drove through I'm trying not to use any freeways at all. I'm just using normal roads. So I drove through the mountains, and my plan is to stay in guest houses and small minchikus and ryokans and stuff, and avoid the big places. Naturally, the first night I couldn't find a hotel, and I ended up staying in a Prince hotel in Naeba, which was sterile and dreadful, but on the other hand, it was also only 9,500 yen. My plan is to keep my budget down to something around 5 to 10,000 yen if possible. And so far I've succeeded in doing that for 10 nights. In fact, one night was free, which I'll tell you about later, but not through my choice. From there, the next morning I drove down to Nigata, to a place called Kashiwazaki. Kashiwazaki is famous for, it had the world's largest nuclear plant, which I visited. It's been supplanted by the Chinese now, of course. It's still a massive facility, but sadly not being used at all. It's been mothballed, along with, I think, all the other Japanese nuclear power plants. I then drove down the coast a bit and found a small guest house, a little bit inland, quite weird, sort of a hippie sort of place with a load of musical instruments all over the place, and I was the only guest. I then drove down to the Nodo Peninsula, which is well known recently because sadly they had a terrible earthquake on the 1st of January 2024. It was truly shocking what I saw there. Well, here's my Jimny, fully loaded up. Not too bad. I've probably got a lot of stuff I won't use, but anyway, that's life. Here's the car. I had these decals made up for it, all Japan in My Jimny. And here's a map of Japan that I'll be using most of the time. I'll try and point out where somewhere over here, Karuizawa. It's very small on the map. And then I'm going to go down here, down here, down here, down here, and across to Kyushu. And I'm planning to go to Nagasaki, where us foreigners first started to pollute this fair country. Here's the driver's side. Oh yeah, the map's weighed down by a couple of vitally important ingredients for my trip, some beer. Here's the back wheel. Okay, I'm going to get on the road in about half an hour. I'm just going to go say goodbye to my girlfriend and then I'll be out. So here's some of the stuff I'm going to be taking with me on my trip. I'm actually based in Karuizawa, which is about 1 hour outside of Tokyo, a small mountain resort. And I'm going to go through some of the stuff. This is my kitchen box. I'm English, so I have a box, a Terry's chocolate orange. I'm also the proud owner now of a Indian pressure cooker, which will probably kill me before the end of the trip. And then there's some of the local very delicious tomatoes called amera. Here is my trusted knife. I used to be a cook for some time. Then we come to the clothing box. Not so interesting. 4 pairs of underpants, four t-shirts, 4 pairs of socks. This is the sort of everything box, which has got some books in it, which I'll probably struggle to read because they're all too intellectual. My maps. I don't really like using Google Maps very much until the last 200 meters or something. So I traveled through Africa many years ago, and this is a Michelin map, which I always use Michelin Africa, and plus a couple of others as backup. Flip-flops, smoking stuff. Here's a cold box for inevitable medicine because I'm 67 years old. A backpack, and then over here we have a sleeping bag, a ukulele which I'm trying to learn, which I'll try not to make too much horrible noise for you guys. Yoga mat, which I try and practice every day. Something to cook on, which I probably won't do because I love those egg sandwiches from convenience stores, and they can keep me alive forever. Here's some more clothing, sort of warm stuff for if it gets colder. A chair for sitting on the beach, etc. And then this is my daily box that's got medicine and keyboard and stuff like that in it. Filling up with gasoline at the local Eneos place before I hit the road in about 5 minutes time. Costs about 180 yen a litre here. I'm going to be turning right and going on the 146 towards Sumogoi, aiming for Kusatsu Onsen town. So my Jimny's done 53,000 kilometers. I've had it for about 5 years now, and there's the chronometer set to 0. It's about 20 degrees here in Karuizawa. Well, you have patiently watched 9 minutes of my first YouTube channel. It can't get any worse. Please hang in there. Thank you.